All right, everyone, welcome to September is Significant. I am on here a little later than expected, but it is all good. All right, everyone, welcome. Oh, that delay is serious. All right, let me go ahead and do this. All right, everyone, welcome to episode or lesson or day 10 of September is significant. So, what we are going to talk about today, it is see the money. What is your money story? I love this topic. I've become more and more, um, I guess, infatuated with this topic and understanding it more about money. Now, if you're just tuning in, you can still gain value from what we're talking about today. But I do invite you to go all the way back to the beginning so you can see the progression of these lessons because they do all build upon each other. And this is just a sneak peek into the personal leadership program that I am developing and that I will tell you more about them later. So make sure you stay tuned in and connected with me. All right, so what I want to talk to you about, this is going to be a very transparent topic. And the reason why I want you to go back in order is because a lot of people are focusing on this part here first. And if you look in these social media streets, everyone is talking about how much money they've generated in their business, and you too can generate this, or you need to be at this certain level to do X, Y, and Z. I said this in another video, but it came up again across my feed talking about Grant Cardone, and he was like, if you're making $400,000 as an American, maybe he meant business owner. I didn't read the full thing, but he said that it's an embarrassment. And some people are like taking it the wrong way. They're getting offended, this, that, and the other. Well, that's what he does. He does that to spark controversy and is bringing more attention on him. But if you know his backstory and where he is now, it's kind of like he's saying nobody has any excuse if you want to go to certain levels. Now, if you just want to stay where you are, he's then be offended. He's not talking to you. But if you just take away his verbatim, you know that word. If you take that away, then what he's saying, if you desire to be at a level and you have all of these advantages in front of you and a lot of these past experiences, then there is no excuse. I think he was like strung out on drugs at one point. Don't quote me, but I think his previous life, early part of his life was really bad. And then he had this awakening and really got to work. So you got to look at people from that lens and that perspective. But aside from that, a lot of people are going after these things, having businesses, trying to create certain things because this is bothering me. Okay. Trying to create certain things, only focusing on the money. People are joining programs, trying to sign up with people because they're saying you Okay, because they're saying you too can have this money. And if you remember what I said before, that is not necessarily the case because a lot of them are not telling you all the things that they had to do to get to that point. They're telling you the right now formula, the right now success of the things, but it's still not telling you all of the underlining things that took place before they got there. So you cannot follow somebody else's exact formula to get their exact results without knowing all of the other variables. Now, are there frameworks and systems that you can follow? Because a famous quote that a lot of people say, and I've said it, that success leaves clues. It does, but those clues are not guaranteed. You can do those things and be at a level, but there's no guarantee that you'll be at that level. And then sometimes you may be built to surpass that level. But if you only go and focus on that, then that's not enough. So I wanted you to go in order because now this topic was positioned here for a reason because you have your big vision. You know what? Let me go ahead and just recap very quickly. Not like everything. I'm just going to talk about the topic so you can understand how all of this goes. So you did have to set up your vision and detox yourself from thinking small. That's one, first and foremost. You know, And it's going to tie into money because if you don't have a big vision just right off rip, then we don't even need to have a money conversation because uh why do you care? Right? Or if you want all this money but you don't know what to do with it, then it's still not going to come. And then separate your list how to quit like a pro. These are some of the internal things that you need to work on before like you really get to the money and doing what you need to do or what you're called to do. Secure your time, how to personalize your productivity. I talked about standing on your story, when to use self-esteem versus self-confidence. I talked about self-mastery is service, how to be instead of do. Very big part of how the money shows up, and we'll get to that. Steward self-trust, how to follow your instincts, state your tolerations, how to deal with unmanaged frustrations. Talked about spotlighting your dreams, laser focus. Are are your dreams big enough? Because sometimes, if you go through this journey, things can wane, and you have to keep that vision in front of mind. And then last year's we talked about scaling your momentum, how to speed up success. So all of that, and now you're getting to the money. If you really do what you need to do at this point, at a certain point, you'll start having success. You'll start seeing some things. And I know that's in my personal life. I started seeing some things and okay. And then it got to a point where, okay, I have learned all the things, I've gotten some traction, but why am I not seeing the actual money that I know that I can see? And I went through all of this. I was in a money mindset membership group at one point. I really started listening to a lot of people like business and sales. And I went through the same thing I'm sharing with you. I went through a process like this, but it still wasn't connecting. This is why I wanted you to understand personal development and see it as personal leadership, because all of the things that you gather, and if you've gone into the self-help industry and you're taking, programs and things like that, if you're not seeing the actual results that you want, it's because your vision, you didn't go into those programs with a vision in mind. So that is what I help people with. That is what I help you with, is to make sure that before you do anything that you keep your vision, because all of the other tactics, they need to be filtered through your vision and your value system for it to work for you, right? So you can't just take these random lessons and start applying them. You have to be strategic about what you're focusing on and how you are doing these things, instead of just, it's like, you go work out in the gym and you may do some arms one day, you may do some legs, or you may be on the treadmill. Um, and then you kind of just do these random exercises in the gym, and you'll get some results, but it won't be what you envision. Or you may have a want or a desire, but you haven't really set up the vision for yourself. So you just keep going and you're like, well, I released a little bit of weight or gained a little bit of weight. I'm feeling a little stronger, but why can't I, get my body carved the way I want, or however it is? And that's because you're just randomly doing things. So you'll get some results, but until you have the vision in your mind, you go through all the internal things to get out of the way about your image of body weight and all of this, then you get into a structured program or structured framework, or having someone to be there with you and show you the different things, or you yourself get, into a plan, then start focusing on internally your nutrition, then come up with strategic exercise to do for certain things. And then as you adjust as you get results, then there are things you need to adjust in your food, and this, that, and the other, because now it's tailored focus. You have a container, a structure for you to follow, and then you can pinpoint those results. Same thing with money. Well, same thing with personal development, and same thing now we're going to talk about money. So you could say you want money and all of this, but until it truly aligns to your vision, until you really start becoming that person now, like real talk, not just saying these affirmations and just randomly doing those things, it is not going to come. And I'm telling you, and I have something right here that I'm like, should I share it? But I am going to share it. So so we talked about, so now you can see the trajectory. Understanding that money is energy and money needs to flow. That's why it's called currency. You've heard people say this before, and people can, if you say that you don't care about money, then jump off my live. Don't even keep watching. Just get off and don't leave me any comments, because that's not true. I call him Uncle MG. He's not my uncle, but he just gives me uncle vibes. Uncle MG, Myron Golden. he said this, and I also heard Dan Locke say this, and some other people said some version of this, but it really came from where I heard it from Myron Golden. And he was like, if you don't care about money, then stop going to work. Stop going to your job if you don't care about money because you can just go live off whatever. And you go to work because it's not so much because you love what you do, which is cool, but you go there because you're getting, money, you're getting resources so you can take care of other things. I also heard, oh, I cannot pronounce his name, VT. He's I can't even pronounce his name. But he also, somebody said, well, do I focus on the money or do I focus on the income, on my passion? So he wrote down the list. He was like food, shelter, clothes, car, just writing out things. He said, can you buy this with passion? Can you buy this with passion? Can you buy this with passion? And then the guys that they're chuckling, he was like, no. He was like, exactly. You need to generate money, generate income. And then in those of you who are saying like, oh, money isn't everything, then that's a lie too. Because money, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you need the bottom pyramid is safety and security for yourself, your well-being. So if you don't have enough just let's say survive to make ends meet, you're always going to be in this cycle of just spinning cycle. And I know this, you're not going to be able to be creative. You're not going to be able to focus. You're not going to be able to pour into other people because you aren't stable. So let's just get that out of the way. So money is energy as far as currency, but it also has something to do with you. You are in a better state of mind when you have like you're safe and secure. And we're not even talking about lavish living. When you can pay bills, have stuff left over, needs, you're not trying to figure out paycheck to paycheck or doing all those things. There, the energy that flows out of your body is much better. And even if you still want more, which is you should always want more, but it's a better feeling when you're like, okay, I'm stable, I can do more. Now, with that being said, what else I want to say before I jump into that? Oh, yeah, I can get into that. So we all need to generate money, income. Now, the reason why I said it's important for you to start with your big vision, if you're saying that I only want to make enough to be comfortable, then this is not for you because that's selfish. It's selfish for the people that say that they want to have more impact, but at the same time they say they want to just make enough to be comfortable or just to make enough to pay your bills. You're going to attract that same type of energy. If you keep saying that, if you keep showing up in your actions, you can say all day, I want to have more income and impact. But if your actions are saying that, demonstrating that you only want to make enough to pay your bills and you only want to make enough to be comfortable, then that's where you're going to be. And I'm not saying that you uh, have to say, oh, I want to live on the yacht and things like that. It's not about that. Those things are byproducts. You can say whatever you want to say about people who are wealthy, but if you really look at how they generate their wealth, majority of them have generated their wealth by providing value to a large number of people or to a specific type of people with high income that can pay them a lot of money, right? So them having the yachts and the jets and stuff, those are just byproducts of the service. Now, some of them are, you could say about greed and all of that. There are a few people like that, but then there are some people who don't have any money who are the same way. So these are some of the things that you're going to have to talk about and deal with as far as money. So when you're saying you want to make enough just to be comfortable, the reason why I said it's selfish because impact and at a scale, if you really think about your vision, that you have for yourself. And then in your vision, you broke down some goals or some intentions that you wanted to meet, some mile markers some targets that you want to meet, and the things that you're going to do along the way. It is not comfortable. It is not going to be easy. It is not for the weak, right? And you can't do it by yourself. Your salary alone is not going to cut it. Even if you are having your own business and you are generating money, what you're doing right now, I guarantee you, it is not enough for you to accomplish that vision that you have that you said that you wanted if you did the exercise, right? I know for me, it's easy to say that you want the vision, but if it's not always in front of you, you can slip into those thoughts about money and just being comfortable or thinking about it too much. And so let's go through this before I get off on a tangent. So I told you that money is energy, and then money, people say money can't buy happiness, and that's it. It doesn't buy happiness, but it makes life a whole lot better when you have the resources. And the way to think about money is like money gives me choices. There's been a situation right now in my life that just happened that, transparent moment. It's like, wow, money had to dictate that situation and it pissed me off, just real talk. And I was like, no more, no more. This cannot continue on until I made this declaration by the end of 2024, because the fact that I had to ask money for permission instead of me telling money what to do. And it's always been like that. But until you get to the point where you say enough is enough and to really understand what is happening, then you're going to still be in the cycle. So I'm trying to free you and help you right now. So that was for me. And then something that you need to really sit down and say, well, when is enough? Because subconsciously, you're still going to be floating and coasting, and you're probably going to be like, well, especially if it's a business or doing something outside of your comfort zone, you have to get to the point where that's why I said those unmasked, how to deal with those unmanaged frustrations and stating your tolerations. When you get to the point where you're not going to tolerate this long enough, and you do this in every area of your life. So today we're talking about money. What are you not tolerating anymore about money? This is how this works, right? So when you get to that point, then you will start making changes. The you'll stop looking at your circumstances and do what you need to do to be in that vision. You have to become the person that's operating in that vision right now, regardless of the circumstances. So, what are some things that are probably holding you back? And I know it's true. There are one, two, five blueprints. Five blueprints. I'm just going to touch the surface of them when if you decide to work with me or any other, some other people talk about this, but if you decide to work with me, we take a deeper dive into these blueprints, but not just randomly. This is the thing I'm telling you. This is why I want you to go in order. This is something I did not do, so I'm trying to help you. You have to do this as it relates to your vision, because certain things may not be for you right now, or you may not feel certain things, or it may not impact you in a way. So you have to do this for yourself. So I can tell you the categories, but I can't say, well, this is why, I can't give you specific examples because I don't know your lived experiences, right? So this is why it's important for you to do the work yourself, and then you can then have some guidance and be able to talk it through, but you are in control of that. All right. So the first one is your spiritual blueprint. So we talked about your money source. So see the money. So when I say see the money, it is, how do you see money as it relates to this through this lens? Spiritual, what did I say? Spiritual blueprint, spiritual blueprint. For those of you who are believers, we've gone to church, we grew up in church, or you probably just started off in your Christian walk. And money is not often talked about in in church. Now, when I grew up, it wasn't. I think a little bit more is starting to come out because of the whole like entrepreneur movement and business. Like it's just very prominent right now in a lot of places. A lot of people, talk about the prosperity gospel as that being a bad thing. Taking it as face value of how it's being portrayed can be a bad thing, but the Bible talks about having prosperity. So that's one, first and foremost. But a lot of it is like, don't focus on wealth. We like to quote, money is the root of all evil, which is taken out of context. And it's talking about, it's easier for the rich man to go through the eye of the needle than to go to heaven or something like that. Go watch Myron Golden. He breaks that down. I'm not breaking that down. But I never, even though I grew up in church, I never had the sense of I should be poor or I should not to be a Christian, right? That never sat right with me. Even when I was little, I was like, I always had things and wanted to to to, to have nice things, or to live a certain way, or not to have money as a focal point, because it was just always there. It was like abundance. We weren't rich by any means, but it was never. I never saw a struggle. Now, as I got older, I realized my mom had a struggle, but it was never placed on me like that. It was like we had everything we wanted and needed, and with my sister and I, cool. Even growing up, I learned how to, save money, manage money, travel everywhere. Like, so it really, I did whatever I wanted to do. And then, so I never had that, but when I would hear it in churches and stuff, sometimes I'll be like, that's for y'all. But then subconsciously, why I'm realizing this, why I never went to a certain level, because subconsciously, even though I still felt like this is off, because I didn't have anything to counter that, it was still a little bit in there like, well, you can't go too high. You're not going to be as Christian like, because everyone says that people with this type of money is greedy, they're mean, and all of that. And I was like, I never want to be that person. But that pull was a little stronger, but it didn't. It was kind of like it wasn't so far to the edge because my mom would take my sister and I to like these different neighborhoods. She had affluent friends, and we will always be in that atmosphere. So I knew that it was possible. Like these people are nice and this and that. So I'll tell you why I wasn't at a certain income level in a minute, but so growing up, I always was around that. So I was like, I knew it was a good thing. I never thought it was bad, like some people are saying. But then when I got older, then I started realizing, like, okay, you just having a job isn't enough. Then I thought I would pick the wrong career. So that was another thing that I was thinking about. And I was like, well, then it was like, well, God gives you the power to give you wealth. That's in there in the Bible. But then I was like, well, is that really for me? Because I'm in this profession, I was a teacher. And I was like, well, maybe he didn't give me the power because I'm in this profession. So just not really understanding what that meant. So there are some things I had to work through in the spiritual blueprint to really understand what it is, what it was about money. So for me, it wasn't that money was bad, but it was like, oh, money can come from not just me being in a career, like I can really do this myself. It's not a fixed thing, like this fixed pathway of being in a career. And so I had to work through that. And um yeah, so I had to work through that. Now for you, it could be the opposite end where you could think that, oh, I'm just gonna um I can't have money, or I'm not supposed to, or I'm supposed to give everything away, or I'm supposed to do everything for free. Some of that was with me too. Like, well, let me do ministry or service and just give everything away for free until I realized, like, even see, this is why my younger self was a lot better sometimes. I would go to church and I would go to church business meetings and they would have budgets and doing things like that. And that's when I realized like, oh, y'all pay people to come in, but y'all won't pay people if they're a member of the church. And then that's why things started, working that, start revealing themselves to me. But then, so I'm just saying that I did all this work. There are some things you just have to uncover. You yourself, there are some things you have to start uncovering. And then as I got older, I went through this, I won't name it, but I went through this program and talking about debt and, getting out of debt and not having certain things. And what you all will know him if you pick up on the clues, who I'm talking about. And so I follow what he said about, living way below your means, eating beans and rice and getting out of this and paying all that off. I did that. And while I'm thankful now, I don't have any student loan debt and I paid all of that off and things like that. There was nothing I could have, it could have been a different approach. For me, that approach didn't align to my value system because I never had to go below my means to do anything. I never had to do that. So when I did that, I invited that low vibe energy, that low vibe spirit into my life. Now, I'm not saying what he's saying is bad. It just did not work for me and it wasn't aligned for me. That there were ways to do that. Versus, I'm thinking like you had to, this one may be a little longer, so stick with me. But it was instead of me understanding the true abundance and saying, go generate more money, go generate more income, even if it was to get a second job or increase or do the side business or things like that. So you can do that. It was decrease and shrink down and uh what's the word minimize, and it was just low, like I can't think of the word I want to say, but it was restrictive. Everything was only eat this, live off $25 a month for food. Don't get your hair done, don't get your nails, don't do all of that. For some people, that works. That's exactly what they need to do. These, and I will hear the stories. They will work for them, do all of that, and they will be, oh, this is the best thing that ever happened for me. It wasn't the best thing. It left me, and the residue lasted for years of being in that space because for me that was such a low vibe. And even though the principles what he was saying they were biblical principles, but for me there were other biblical financial principles that talked way more about abundance. So you gotta know what works for you. That did not work for me. So it's been taking years to scrub that residue and then to fill myself back up of what God truly, truly, truly said about building wealth and having a business beyond having nice things. Now, don't get me wrong, I like nice things. So that means like I need to provide more value, more service for people, right? But you have to decide where that is for you. So I took a long time talking about the spiritual part, and we can go a lot deeper than that. But I do invite you to really sit with that and write out some things that you've heard about your Christian walk or your faith. And even if you're not a Christian, you heard some of these things about through a spiritual lens, and that probably turned you off from the church completely, because there are a lot of people I hear, they're like, I don't go to church because everybody in there broke except for the pastor. And that is not a good thing. And you got people out here who have no relationship with Christ who are, killing the money game. And it's like, why couldn't we as believers have that money? Because we are the ones who have dominion over the earth, and we are supposed to be out here doing the work of the Lord. But we too busy anyway. I ain't gonna go there. D Focus on your spiritual blueprint because we got some other ones to talk about. All right, your economic blueprint. So that's like similar to what I was saying that, oh, my income potential is fixed. Now, the only way get I can grow wealth is to for my salary, make sure I save and make sure I invest. Now, in order for that to really pop off, I did this a little bit when I was in my 20s. Then I could see my money growing, and I was like, okay, but then it was still kind of like a little cap thing because I couldn't really touch it. It had to grow. You have to leave it alone. So you still had some delayed things. So what is your mind telling me about that? One part, like I said, part of my story was my income is going to be capped or it's going to be based on just my salary. So either I had to deal with picking the wrong profession. I started off as a computer engineer major and was really good at that. And I could have come out of school starting in my 20s at that time, 80, 90 grand a year versus what I started when I was sort of making a teacher. And I was like, oh man. And then even though I went to a college professor that came up higher, but I was still a college professor under the framework of an educator. So you had some college professors that could really make some money, and then some in the education space because for some reason people in the education department didn't get paid as much as other departments. So I was like, take me and put me in the math department. But anyway, but I still had to work through that. It's like, oh, I can generate money, like me, myself, like I can go do something. And there were signs like I would always get, like growing even when I was a teacher, people would hire me to write curriculum for them, or I would always have like a side thing that was so easy. I never liked to tutor, but when I did, I could generate money doing that. I can do hair. So I can generate money to do that. But I never like put business around those things. I just thought that they were like, oh well, just something to do. But had I had the right lens, like, hey, you can capitalize on these things. God is telling you that your income isn't fixed, So thinking about me that um, always had that inside of me to change my economic landscape, but it just didn't register to me. So those are some of the things that if you're being blocked right now, then you have to think about the economy. If you're focusing on, well, the stock market is crash or the booming market or the government, this and that. What are your thoughts about that? That's keeping you stuck. When I started making a shift when I heard, and that's part of my slogan. If you took part of my lead and leverage challenge, I do talk about helping people create their own ecosystem and build their own economies. I got the second part from another coach, and they said when it was during the pandemic, and she was like, I don't participate in the recession. I don't participate. So people are scrambling around, like trying to get money, trying to get toilet paper. Y'all remember that? And she was like, nope, I don't participate. It's always here and abundant for me. And I was like, you don't participate in a recession, but you're here. And she was like, nope, I have my own economy. I get to dictate the money I'm bringing in. People are scrambling, but there are always people who are spending money and will always have money. And I was like, oh my gosh. So just because the what we see through the one economic lens is in crisis, that doesn't mean everybody is operating like that. And I was like, I get to choose that. So that's one way to look at your economic blueprint. Your geographical blueprint, what where you are, what does that say about how you view money? I won't get into too much into that, but does your location matter? Do you think your location, whether it's a certain state, whether it's a certain country, does it matter? Certain neighborhood, we can even go that granular, does it matter? And what is that telling you about your money story? The second one is your cultural blueprint. Now, as a uh, Black American female, I could have this whole, story, and subconsciously I did. Same thing with you. What does your culture tell you about money? And the what? Let me go back to this. It's important because if you don't deal with this now, you're going to struggle living out that vision. And remember, vision goes beyond just what you can see. It is like you're on the pathway to building that, but you should be able to hit some goals or some targets along the way, right? Um, Let me say this first. So here's one thing to help you. Instead of trying to go all the way to the millions, that people are talking about, I learned this from Dan Locke and from Shanda Sumter. If you only think about generating, and let's take out what Grant Cardone said, but if you're like, okay, $300,000, if I can generate that in a year, for the most part, you can be good. And that's a step above comfortable. There are some things you can do to put in place. And that's why I said an entrepreneur is different from a business owner. If you did something on the side, this is an example I got from Dan Locke. It was a guy who was making $60,000 in a year in his career, and he was like, okay, I need to make a shift. So he learned photography and he started building a side business of photography. Short story long, he started generating about $300,000. So what he did, he took that money and then he bought some what you call those things? Apartments. Well, an apartment building, not a huge one, but enough. And then he started generating income from that. From that income, then he took it to put in investments and let those grow. So he didn't go through this whole entrepreneur thing, trying to do all the things, try to be the coach, the speaker, and all of that. He went and found a way to generate money on the side, took that money and put it in here in the apartment buildings, and took that money and start putting it into an investment and letting that grow. And then he lives off the dividends or whatever they call it. So that's why I say it's the difference between entrepreneur and business owner. But when you get to the point, let's say about $300 to $400,000, you have the extra discretionary funds to do multiple things so you can be at a different level. And so, if having that in mind, I was talking to a friend of mine. We were going somewhere, and I was like, we always want to jump to the millions, but don't you know what? If we would have really understood that all we needed was about $300,000 to $400,000, we could have just focused, you know what? Let me go ahead and do this tutoring business, even though I do not like tutoring. Let me do this on the side so that I can generate enough money and put it into real estate or put it into something else that it can grow and I can live off the dividends and be good. Had we thought about that, had we not worked on our money, how did we worked on our money story and just looked at it from that perspective, a lot of us would have been in a lot better positions than we are now. Now, we can say our parents didn't teach us, church didn't teach us, school didn't teach us, but when you get to a certain age, you haven't stopped blaming those places, and you have to take responsibility. Just like with church, you are big enough to read the Bible yourself. If it's anything about what school did not teach you, YouTube University is free. Books, you can invest in a little bit, learn something. Coaches, mentors, advisors, these are the people now that there's no excuse. So let's stop using that. Those are some stories that you're telling yourself. But anyway, so if you just start thinking about that right now without trying to, just be this entrepreneur, leave your job and all of that, say, what can I do right now to generate income on the side, whether it's doing hair, walking dogs, something that you can actually do just enough. so that you can put it into another container for it to grow. A lot of times we get into our minds because we've been trained that whatever you do, you got to stick with it and it has to be your passion. And if it's not your passion, and it was like, no, not really. You can do something to a point to generate that income so you can start focusing on things on your passion. That was the disconnect that happened for me because I'm like, all these people that kept coming to me, like either tutoring or helping with this. And I started to do something and I got knocked down. I was like, well, maybe that wasn't for me. That's not true. Anyway, I won't go too deep into that. All right. So then your gender blueprint, male or female, whatever it tells you, you have to work through that. Oh, did I tie it up on cultural, your cultural, whatever your, like I said, there are some things like, being a Black American, I could, oh, the man's get me down, or Black people can't survive in the US. We got, slavery, all of those things could be reasons, like could be stories I'm telling myself, but then you have to look at other examples like, oh, well, I can't use that as an excuse. And but even if you intellectually know that, you have to deal with it subconsciously because that's the reason why you're not at that level. Okay, let me go ahead and try to wrap this up because I told you I'm going to tell you this transparent moment. And I said it. So spiritual blueprint, economic blueprint, geographical blueprint, cultural blueprint, and your gender blueprint, and think about those things. So let me tell you, in 2020, and this I remember I told y'all that somebody can give you a plan. If you don't have things, your internal leadership developed, it doesn't matter what they give you. I'm looking at my notes from May 19th, 2020, and I have a blueprint right here in front of me. I kid you not, right here in front of me. And it shows how to generate $3.1 million in a year. And these are not even some of the fees that I have now. This was just starting off. And one example I'll give you, like if I had a speaker fee for $3,500, which that is not my speaker fee now, but that's why I'm just giving you an example of like even back then, I was like, oh, $3,500 because I was doing workshops for $3,500 like as a consultant. So I'm like, okay, but it was some of these other things. And this was for a year. And the plan is literally right here in front of me with the exact numbers, how you do it, and all of this. Now, there were certain things that I realized that other things needed to be in place for that to happen, but the blueprint was right here in 2020. So we're in 2024. I could have done this every single year and grew it. So we're talking about 2020. So let's say 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. 3, 6, 9, $12 million that it could have been generated in a business. Why am I not sitting on $12 million or more right now? It's because all of that stuff I told you about the stories. Also, I did not I had this plan before I really got into personal development or personal leadership, but I kept them separate. I did not take what I'm telling you and go through this process with the lens. I was just going through personal development. Oh, I gotta fix me. I'm just broken. Oh gosh. And there's a part of that, but you can't stay there. It can't just be about fixing you for you. It has to be about working on getting yourself stronger so you can lead the people that you're called to lead. And if you're in self help and personal development and you're swimming in that, then you're going to stay stuck. So you need to be connected to a vision, and that vision is income, influence, impact, and income. It has to go together. All right. So I let a lot of circumstances, situational stuff keep me blocked from this plan right here that's been sitting here, and I dug it out, and there was somewhere else that showed like the amount of money that I can generate. Even if I took out the plan, there's a plan right here to generate $1.3 million just doing just one aspect of what I'm talking about. So when you hear people saying, one lady, I like her, Amy Porterfield, who only focuses on courses. She does a little bit of speaking, but she does not like to leave her house. She's really big on the internet. And she's like, oh, my company generated $40 million in a year, or it's a $40 million company. That's what we do every year. Or when I hear a life coach saying that her goal is to generate $100 million business, but right now she's at $50 million, and those numbers may seem like astronomical. But until you start dealing with some of your money stories, like I had to, now I'm looking at them and just looking at the small plan I have, I'm like, that is totally doable. But I didn't get there. I wasn't there in 2020. Had the plan. And yeah, so I'm telling you, if you never work with me or listen to anything else I say, go back through this series and put that vision in your mind. Work through that, because this money right here, the money, the $12 million on the low end that I could have generated, it pains me because one of the situations I told you about in the beginning where I had to let money dictate what I was going to do instead of me telling money what to do. And then some of the big dreams that I have about the other companies I want to develop, even the foundation I want to start, those all could have been funded. But I allowed my circumstances to block me from doing those things. And when I say block me, there are certain things you have to do. So yeah, I have the plan, but I also know exactly what to do. So it's not enough just to say, okay, I have the plan, I can generate this money, but it's like daily action that you're going to do every day. This is why I say filter everything you're doing, those tolerations, those stories that you're telling yourself, the frustrations you're dealing with, and all the other things I talked about. Those are the things that you have to work through, your productivity and why you're not being as productive. All of those things, those are the daily things that you work on internally to get to this outcome. But you're not going to get to that outcome or that income if you don't start dealing with those things. And one of them is your money story. All right, this went a lot longer than I had planned. Let me know your thoughts down below. The statistical significance, because I did not forget the statistical significance. That is what I'm talking about. Just focusing on the money stories that you're telling yourself in those blueprints. If you just worked on one of them, to start, let's say your spiritual one, if you are a believer, or it could be your gender or your economic, whatever it is, just pick one. That's the 5% of the data that is literally going to move you forward, especially if you've been doing the 5% of all the other things we talked about. You're going to start seeing a quantum shift, a quantum leap. Now, I'm not saying that the money won't will come overnight. There have been cases where as soon as you make an internal shift, money will come because it's been waiting for you, right? But the main shift is you start acting differently. You start not even acting differently. You start acting like the person you're supposed to become for that to lead that vision. And what you say out of your mouth, how the things that you watch, the things that you listen to, the conversations that you have, start focusing on those because those are the data points that you can track, that you can start seeing the results isn't always and I had to say this for myself. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm not doing it right because I don't have the numbers. I don't have the money. I didn't generate the income. But what shifts are you making that you have not paid attention to? And when you focus on those small data points, that statistical significance, remember the p-value, the personal p-value, that is what determines the outcome of the results. Out of everything else, to determine if it's relevant or not, it's only 5% of the data. All right. So to know that was it a fluke or was it a plan? A fluke is okay, well, I did a little bit. One time I got results, one time I didn't. But if you focus on these data points, what I'm telling you that you can put these to work and track them, then you'll know that you're on the right path, that these things actually work. All right. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me. If you're new, go back and watch the replay. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you like this vibe. And stay tuned. We have two more uh, episodes or lessons to wrap up this whole series of September being significant. And wherever you are, whether you're beginning your day or ending your day, remember to be well, to be empowered, to be bold, and to be brilliant. Until next time, bye.